Well, I don't know. I guess I could end up getting a new webcam for less than $15. The camera and the built-in microphone. This is what you see is a result of a purchase I made. I think it was $11 and something online. It comes from Michigan, as a matter of fact. Nowhere else. Only one vendor that I know of. And what I figure is, I don't know. Everything here has been subjected to rough treatment. And I think you can connect the dots. So I don't know what might have happened to the camera. It's very far-fetched. I looked at the way it's put together. It's so solid that it's hard to believe that I've got to get another one or have this one fixed. That notwithstanding, I want to comment real briefly, and this will be short. People are looking for comparisons and looking for what passes for unprecedented and one thing or another, and that's like maybe going into a laundry room where you meet the most delightful people. Better than a bar, maybe, I don't know. Where would you like to meet? At the communion rail or something, or what? Whether you're legally blind or not, you could go to a movie and listen, or what? I think, people are complaining about, more than the ideological, or for that matter, the machinations in English or any other language. And just the common definition of language. Communication is very vast and includes much more than the stunted amount of, say, for example, English people know about in America. But a little goes a long way. The common currency does a remarkable job. Many are below the radar, in terms of those echelons that try to decide who has the power to dictate terms to somebody else. So I just thought I'd mention something. It's something that I've already mentioned at least once before, and that is the parallel between what happened in merry old England, or in London anyway, when the Tories couldn't get their act together. It seems that all they could do was throw out what they had, the former mayor, who was notorious, or what, well known for escapades or one thing or another. I did notice that he finally did find someone to marry, which I think is good news maybe. I don't know how tenuous it is, but sometimes marriage makes all the difference. But anyway, they had, to throw out someone for lying about having a party during the test run of doing away with freedom of association that isn't described the way the First Amendment has it in America, but nevertheless the equivalent, one thing or another. Anyway, so they got rid of the mayor, who they said would never measure up. I don't know. From what they said, he annoyed a lot of people. I mean, that's self-evident. But whether things were legitimate or not, how can anybody in the street, outside the closed door, know what is happening in special places with special people? No matter what facade they present to the world, cameras anyway, or what. Some say that, well, maybe they can put him back in office. I don't think so. I think, that magic moment was when he had to resign, and I'm getting to the comparison I want people to make. If you accept the fact that things have been rotten on any given campus, and for that you can go back to Vietnam days when students were saying all kinds of things about laboratories that they were setting on fire and one thing or another, about where the money comes from and what they're doing and what they're training people to do. If you like to, you can start back in those days and forward, not fast forward, but day by day. Look at what they did, and look where we are now. We're consolidating around what is becoming a binary culture: the haves and the have-nots. We're not quite there yet, but we're moving in that direction. So things, to truncate a little bit, people maneuvered and they came up with what looks like the same kind of plan that got Brexit done. And that's quite a story right there, and figures into all the rest. But after the party issue was settled, that he lied about entertaining some people when that was prohibited by the rules that other people were supposed to follow. What followed was maneuvering with the same people who do Brexit, but some slightly more visible in terms of Parliament. Who controls Parliament? Well, that's a whole different story. It's a kind of a ad hoc situation having to do with access and how that figures into people's lives and so on. But anyway, they came up with trusts, whose thoughts and plans for the government or for the entire economy were so abhorrent that, sure enough, the Queen passed away shortly after they met, and soon, with a nod, I think, toward some problems that I've talked about, much to my regret in terms of my own welfare, because of the severity of some of the problems, for no good reason that I've been able to discern, other than that a terrible coterie cropped up to do damage to the extent possible. And people let them. That's the key. People let them. Well, that's why I look for the current Prime Minister to really be able to make a difference in a lot of ways. All right, so trust didn't last but just a little while. That's like the president of Harvard. It's as though everything combined to roll a gutter ball right from the start. And several gutter balls later, we kind of figure, well, maybe this isn't really the way to proceed. A better metaphor and a better activity or excuse for meeting. Maybe if people didn't achieve too early in life their very own washer and dryer, they would meet some good people doing their wash, literally, rather than dirty laundry by stool pigeons on their stools in a bar or dance floor or what. That's just I'm speculating. I don't know. I missed the washer and dryer I had late in life. People decided I didn't deserve that. Now they're doing the same thing in terms of the media, and it can't be undone. The bridges that can be burned, they won't be built or replaced But anyway, I think trust as a prime minister resembles Day, and I think people like that are chosen as a kind of disposable person. I hesitate to say such a cynical thing, but the prime minister was a cutout, and the president of Harvard was a cutout. And having gone through those two rituals with all the opportunities thereunto appertaining, what next? What next? People have wanted to open the books on Harvard for a long time, and the only people who are able to look at the books are pretty well placed. So, you know, how better to do it, though, the way that things seem to be unfolding? Or what? You would maybe want to talk about Laurel and Hardy for Castro's version of Cuba? Or maybe you want to talk about Nikita and some of the people who are now members of NATO. The other day, I chose not to post something where I might have, because I thought, well, you know, I know people told me a few things about the items. I'm told there are 82 items they don't like about me at Facebook, and therefore I consider, you know, the matter settled. You know, I mean, I don't care to choose their vantage point to do anything, even though I think Facebook has potentially the best format for me, you know, that I might ordinarily use. It's in the wrong hands as far as I know. And I don't consider that worthy of a campaign, you know, because it isn't a matter, you know, of anything more than, you know, failed management. So, you know, if I say I think they failed, well, basically they're saying that I have failed. That I have failed by their standards. I don't take that as a badge of honor. You know, I mean, polemically, what am I supposed to do? The dialectic can be this, that, and the other. And I've come across a lot of people who think they've really mastered something, you know. Oh, I'm no longer at the menial level of Grammarly. I'm a PhD. You know, I thought, oh, goody. That's wonderful. Let me shake your hand and go to my deathbed so that Charlie could take over. Or who might have thought that? Is that irreverent? Is that the kind of thing that, if said in certain circles, would be thought disrespectful, unloving, uncharitable, crazy? Meanwhile, you know, in terms of crazy, how many people are dying? You've read the report. Many people, all over the place, for one reason or another, by means of this, that, and the other. That seems sufficiently crazy. And if I simply say, you know, well, I don't know who it would be. I think I'm not frail enough. I'm not in my 90s. If I were 98 or 99 years old, and I had to meet somebody that I thought is going to wreck many lives, I might really feel bad. And I think that actually happened. Is it wrong for me to say that? Would Zucky say, aha, I'll decide whether you say that? I'll have to say categorically, well, you won't have a chance to do anything about that. But you probably have well-placed friends. or there may be people just like you everywhere I turn. That's the way it's been for years, mostly. But anyway, so some people say make lemonade. Suppose a few people saw to it that one thing happened, and you didn't really want that particular result, but nevertheless, well, that's something to work with. You're so smart you can work with that and pick up the tools of your trade and get to work with whatever spilled milk there is, or bad lemonade, or too many watermelons, or not enough, whatever, and so people try to make lemonade, more or less, in a conventional sense, and so that means, you have a bright young man that I'm told he's the richest, the most wealthy prime minister in the history of the UK, and all the way back before the UK, the richest prime minister in history. And yet he plays stupid every day. I have noticed that he acts like the dumb blonde. For some reason there are people who happen to be blonde who learn early in life the only thing they can do is play stupid because of the predicament somehow they happen to get into. And something went wrong, so those people now sell tinted glass and yada yada yada. But I think that I've tried to talk about the pragmatism of those whose discernment is not the issue, just their discretion. And so we have, a token prime minister until a billionaire can take over and not necessarily be held to account for anything any more than someone, a Jewish prime minister years before. Now, the current prime minister is not Jewish. There would be an argument about whether a person of any given faith that is declared, or what is the facade of choice? Some say that people who are atheists are actually lying. Well, how do they know? I don't know. But I imagine there are people who can, probably earn a bunch of money with that argument somehow. I've also met people say, a young man said, I've been in touch with people all over the place, and we could do thus and so, couldn't we? Yep, we could. And then they said collectively, but we're not going to do that. I thought I was kind of enthused by that, but there are a lot of good people who haven't tried too hard to gain a certain position. I can think of Corbyn. Before that, the poor fate of Hubert Horatio Humphrey, who tried way too hard to become president, ruined his life, and almost ruined the vice presidency before that. So then, I'm filibustering and talking about pragmatism in terms of what are the opportunities in terms of making a comparison. And I'm talking about some just you flip it night television, or on the other hand, the footnotes and everything. Chapter and verse on how it is that organizationally the president of Harvard was a cutout, like the Prime Minister of the UK. And now we have Sunak taking over, but he plays dumb right before he's out, I guess, because of Rwanda or whatever. But and that's because of the media. The media could make sense of that policy or not. And I have a lot of thoughts about that. It's premature to talk about Rwanda now, but anyway, or the Rwanda plan, which seems to be farmed out, offered to anybody. But what are people going to do with, really, what would you call it, academic or polemic or what? To a formal comparison between the Prime Minister and the President of Harvard, when organizationally that's the step that people take for one reason or another. I think, if I could, I would, I'm not motivated to say much, but I think maybe I might have been enough to say, all right, here's the deal about a paper. I digress, but I don't really care that much. I'm more concerned with how am I going to afford to replace the camera when it fails because the wire's in there. All you'd have to do is, wiggle it too hard a few times, and now it's oddly going to fail. Like some other thing, I could list things, but I don't know. I mentioned earlier today that the news is that a check was written to pay for a microwave oven to replace what they couldn't find. They couldn't find the one that was confiscated as soon as it was delivered in the box. Came by UPS or whatever, and they just summarily took it. The computer said delivered. I asked about it. They said you can't have it. There are other things that they lied about and said we never saw. For example, I bought some of those shirts, those paper shirts, 2 boxes, a total of about $60 worth, that they said didn't get here, and it was a lie. Now I'm trying something else, these t-shirts with my name on the back, and I'm trying to see if enough turnover and stuff is happening for that to work out, but leading up to right now, just simply observing that I don't jump up and down much about anything, because they're going to take other stuff away from it. They said the other day, you can go ahead and keep the George Foreman grill and the crock pot, which is wild with that big executive decision. And I haven't used either one. It's so much trouble. And you can't have the toaster oven that you had for 2 years. But now they're going to present me with the microwave and take away the George Foreman and the crock pot. And at the highest reaches of insanity, the symbolism involves cliches that aren't worthy of repetition, but I would say, because of a lot of things, cross currents, one thing or another, I don't know whether I'll have the microwave full on, or whether it'll work or what. I just don't know. At this point, my agenda doesn't really refer with great intensity to much more than reducing pain, and if the oven helps with that, fine. If it doesn't, well, I don't know what I can say. Maybe I ought to say less about everything, but anyway, the only thing I'm going to do, as far as I know, the easiest thing to do, I never look back on any of this, stuff that I do, I don't look back to see analytics or anything else, and so the way to get this done, I'll upload this to YouTube, and then a little later on, I'll just share that with a link given to X. And I so far I don't understand X. I really don't. It reminds me of sitting in a day room wondering whether I should try to build a gingerbread house with using dental paste to stick the parts together. that was an opportunity offered once to some residents, and I wasn't interested. And some other people, I saw one person taking it on you to get it just right, and another person who slapped it together just to get through the day. I'm that way about a lot of things. I need, for example, to get some more saline. I've stopped using the humidifier. The humidity in this room is so low that the static electricity on a cotton shirt, when I sit down and stuff, and my nose is so dry that I keep going like this because it's uncomfortable, and I need to get some more saline to spray in my nose. And I'm sorry for my appearance. People talk about that and other things involved. I don't mind things that don't matter, and sometimes people do the funniest things. But yeah, I mind some of the results that people allow. Meanwhile, some people have gotten very creative. More and more creative, some folks. I don't dare say who, but I think you know who I'm thinking of. I've tried to follow for a long time. There's a reason for that. Well, okay, I know people find fault with what I do. That's okay. Some people think that the wrong things. It isn't sometimes what people think. I am phenomenally beaten down by the access that is maintained and empowered to represent potentials that are stupefying. Now, on that note, I had 27 minutes and about 15 seconds. I'll say it is 12/24, Saturday, January 6th, 2024. How about that? That matches up. So it's really in the wee hours. The day is young, only just a few minutes old. A brand new Saturday. But it won't be much different from most, I think. That can be said, I think, about most days, or what? D-Day, or what? What would be everything I say could be picked to pieces. And that's what people do. And then eventually what happens is that the potentials having to do with access can be crushing. Just crushing, like a Dixie cup or a bubble of soap, a soap bubble or what.